Scotty White World Combat Sports. I'm in Tampa, Florida, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, numero 8. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?
Maxwell from Roanoke, Virginia.
How long you been in this sport, man?
I've been doing this will be year number 8. Year number 8 for me. I've been doing mixed MMA for 8 years now and finally making my BKFC debut.
And that's what's good about bare knuckle fighting. You have fighters that's, kind of transition over from mixed martial arts to boxing over to bare knuckle boxing. So how long have you been training for bare knuckle fighting?
I've been
Besides knocking cats out, the record that we don't know on the scene yet, man.
I mean, I've been training for this for the past 8 weeks now, but probably even a little bit longer. I've been transitioning over to make myself better for this. Because, I've been doing MMA for the past 8 years, and of course this is new to me. But I'm not blind doing it because I've been to a show and I've watched every single show, like every second of it, every single show, even the one that I went to. I went back when I got back home and watched the whole show all over again. I've probably watched the show that I was at probably about 10, 20 times already. But
what's a fight that stand out to you? Being that you review the reel, what is the fight that stand out to you watching that reel over and over again?
I mean, the one that stood out to me the most was probably the one that my buddy fought in, Bruce Bramsky. He fought Kendall Grove. I was right there at it, and everything was right there in the square circle, right there in front of me. So, of course, that's going to stand out to me. So, I mean, a lot of other fights stood out to me, but that one the most because I was like literally in and out of the square circle with him each time he had to come to the corner, and I was there. But the highlight fight of that night though, BKFC8, was Hart versus Rollins. That was an awesome fight. First female championship title fight, so that was awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Now that she's transitioning back to mixed martial arts, she set her name. You know what I'm saying? She was somewhat like the Ronda Rousey bare knuckle fighting.
Yes,
she came in first, and now she's transitioned. Do you think we'll be able to see her return, or?
Hey, maybe the stars will align again one day, and she'll come back home to where she belongs at. But hey, sometimes you gotta do what's best for you and your family. Sometime at the end of the day.
Hey, absolutely. What do you like most about mixed martial arts, man, compared to bare knuckle fighting?
I mean, kicks.
Yep.
Kicks. I like to throw kicks, and I like to take people down and beat them up. But I mean, like I said, like I've told, every interview that I've done in podcasts so far, that the transition has been well. I've seen it seems to have been working so far, and I feel great about it. It's awesome. But the big difference between them both, I mean, throwing hands and banging out for real. But hey, we're here to have fun, do our job, and put on a show for the fight fans.
What has been the most difficult training measure that you had to undertake in getting your hand prepared for the bare knuckle fighting? Because I've heard some crazy stories about athletes training themselves and getting their knuckles ready to go in there and compete.
I mean, me myself, I haven't done nothing out of the norm. I mean, I've trained with just my hand wraps on, exposing my bare knuckles, hitting a heavy bag and stuff like that, but nothing out of the ordinary.
You say you're just gonna find out once the knuckle to face happens.
Yeah, I mean,
the placement of the punch is very important, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from the country. I got hard fists anyway. I mean, I've been messing with hay and dealing with animals and picking up concrete and stuff like that most of my life. So it's nothing to do any kind of different regimen to toughen my hands up or nothing. If your hand's either gonna be tough or it's either gonna be soft. Either way, it could break either way to me.
Are you competing at the same weight you did mixed martial arts to bare knuckle tomorrow?
I'm actually right dab in the middle because I usually compete at 185. I have cut to 170 before when I first made my pro debut 3 years ago, but
okay.
I'm right here in the middle at 195, so I'm comfortable. And I can fight at 205, but more than likely I'm always fighting at 185. So 195 to me is like comfortable.
That's light heavy, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at, and it's fine. I thought I was going to have to cut to 185. I was very prepared for that, but said 195 right smack dab in the middle. So
outstanding.
That's gracious right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship number 8 going off tomorrow. This is the first time I've seen you in the square arena under this format of combat sports. how the spirits like, man? How was training camp?
Training camp has went well. I mean, it's probably like my best training camp so far. I mean, I probably say that all the time, but you know, as you progress, you get better and better and better. Every second, every hour that I spent at the gym, I got that 1% better at this, and I'm very well prepared for it.
That's good to go. Is bare knuckle fighting trainings? Does it deal more? You know how boxing, how they hit the cardio. You got to do that road work. Is that something you really have to do a lot of in bare knuckle fighting championship? You know, bare knuckle fighting.
I mean, me personally, I don't think you have to switch it up too much. I mean, I do CrossFit 5 to 6 days a week, so
and that's a beast.
It's probably hand in hand right there with all the road work and this, that, and the third with boxing. But at the same point in time, there's some aspects that you do have to change. Only thing I really changed during this fight camp is working with more boxers, because as in before, like when I first started MMA, I didn't like boxing too well, but I respected it because I know I needed it as a part of my mixed martial arts game. But
True.
Where I'm at with boxing right now, I feel wonderful about it. And it made me start to re-like boxing all over again. Because I didn't like it before, but now it's like, boom, right there in your face.
You now embrace it a little bit more. Okay. That wasn't like a force-feeding project that you had to like boxing.
Nah,
you know.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you know, like I tell people all the time, you know, as you grow in the sport, you gotta be an open book. My coach has always told me that you have to be an open book to grow in any aspect, whether it's MMA, bare knuckle, Muay Thai, or boxing, or even just grappling, jiu-jitsu all the time.
Yeah.
You got to be an open book to all those things to not be one-dimensional, and for you to get better and grow not as a person, but as help your teammates grow too also.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think is not as many black fighters in bare knuckle fighting or mixed martial arts? Why is it more orientated around boxing than, you know, it's not like black MMA fighters or black bare knuckle fighters don't exist. I mean, we're willing to take up boxing, but not a multi-dynamic sport as mixed martial arts. Why do you think that is?
In my opinion, honestly, to each its own. I mean, it's either you want to do it or you don't want to do it. I say that for everybody, whether you're black or you're white. But, you know, most black athletes, you know, we're I'm going to go ahead and say it, we're known for playing football and basketball.
Correct.
And boxing. Not too much known too well in combat sports, but at the same point in time, the takeover is real.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain that it's not like it can't happen. It's just probably like an interest barrier there.
Yeah.
You know, going through the grappling process, putting in the mat time, going through the kicking, and getting your body conditioned for that. And of course, what's natural boxing. You know, I might be wrong, you can tell me, but that just seems like when it comes to the mat time, and then probably kickboxing and Muay Thai.
I'm going to say this, it was in reverse for me.
Okay.
When it came to mat time, boxing never came natural to me. When I hit those wrestling mats at the age of 12, that was what was natural. Because, you know, both of my parents were athletes. My mom, she played basketball and she ran track, and then my dad was a football player and he wrestled. So, of course, growing up watching wrestling on TV and going to watch high school wrestling matches, that got me interested. So when I started the transition from that, because my parents tried to make me play basketball and I hated it, so I would lie to say I'm going to basketball tryouts and slide through wrestling tryouts.
All right.
So, you know, hitting the wrestling match was just natural to me. My first wrestling match, I lost to a girl. But that made me, you know, because I was playing around, being a douchebag then, but, you know, it made me
we all were.
Decide to work harder at that, because I was always a lover before I was a fighter, when I was that age anyways.
Yeah.
Until I got good at wrestling. Then I was like, I'd rather fight somebody than love on somebody. But
when did your dad know that you weren't going to basketball practice, that you could actually toss somebody around? You know, things were a little bit different that, you know,
my dad
going on with his son right now, you know?
Well, my thing with my dad, he didn't know I was going to wrestling practice, because in between of that transition, you know, he went to prison for being stupid, but it is what it is. But my mom kind of figured it out when she picked me up one day, and she usually there's two separate gyms where I went to middle school at.
Yeah.
There was a basketball trial gym, and then there was a wrestling trial gym. She kind of figured out when I messed up one day, and she seen me running from the wrestling gym to try to make it to the basketball gym before she got there. She got there a few minutes early.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's when she figured out and asked me, what were you doing at the wrestling gym? And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and tell her. So that was that, and she went with it since then. So
Cool.
even though she freaked out every wrestling match at home, and whenever she would come to away matches, she would freak out, don't get hurt, this, that, and the third. She still tells me that to this day. I'm surprised she hasn't called me this morning and told me don't get hurt and don't hurt nobody.
Hey, that's the mom.
Yeah.
You can never devalue the mom, the love that comes from your mom, man.
Not at all.
What do you know about your opponent?
I mean, it's not too much I know about him, but I do know a little bit about him. I know that he's a striker and, you know, he's got some kickboxing experience, but, you know, they say he hasn't fought since 2012, but I'm not going to believe that hype. Mm-hmm. Even though somebody hasn't fought in that long, they could have still been training up until this day still. But, you know, I'm not worried about it. I've been, this 8 years that I've been doing this sport, I've been heavily active. I had an extensive, a 5-year amateur career with 20-plus fights. So it's nothing different. I'm not too much worried about if he has cage rust or nothing. I literally just fought a couple months ago in June, so I'm still in fighter shape and active. So I'm not worried about none of that at all. I'm here to do work and get this win.
Do work. That's what it's about, man.
Yes.
You know what gym? Let the fight fans know what gym you're training out of, man.
I train at a couple gyms. First of all, I train out of Round 30 Mixed Martial Arts in Roanoke, Virginia, and also Hybrid Mixed Martial Arts in Roanoke, Virginia. And I cross-train at a school called Modern Gladiator, which is a Sambo school, which is basically catch
Sambo.
wrestling. Yes. So, you know, I don't like to be a one-dimensional fighter. I like to, like I told you earlier, you know, I like to be an open book and learn everything. You know what I'm saying? So you never know which aspect you're going to have to get into.
You have a strong foundation, man. Wrestling. You know, of course, wrestling bleeds over to jiu-jitsu real nice.
Oh yes.
You know, because of fluidity of it.
At first with wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I transitioned over to that. Now that was definitely a different ball game because I definitely didn't know what jiu-jitsu was, so I didn't respect it until I got that first rear naked choke, and then I was like, oh, okay, now I got to find a jiu-jitsu gym or someone who knows jiu-jitsu to help me out because I don't know none of this jiu-jitsu. And the first time I was in a gi, one of my training partners that I cross-train with now, you know, I put a gi on and I tear him alive in wrestling, but I put that gi on the first time and he just ragdolling me. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I need to respect this a little bit. So, you know, I'm a blue belt now in jiu-jitsu, and it's
Congrats, man.
Worked out for me. I hopefully to be getting my purple belt soon. So, hey,
I tell people all the time in media, Brian, you can't fake jiu-jitsu mat time.
No, you cannot at all.
You can fake kicks, punches. You can come in here and do some, you know, some foot movement and everything.
Yes.
But one thing in combat sports, I'm talking about the discipline. If you don't have the mat time, if you ain't going around getting the different looks at different gyms from different grappling,
it's all about. And as a man once told me, it's all about quality instead of quantity. Because most definitely on them jiu-jitsu mats, that mat time does not lie. And that was my biggest thing too. When I didn't respect it because I didn't know what it was yet.
Okay.
And me being a wrestler, I hung in there for a second until, you know, they did something slick to me, and I was like, oh man, what is this? How do I get out? Because, you know, wrestlers don't like being on their back. They like to be on top, moving all the time.
True.
And a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, especially in jiu-jitsu, they like to be on their backs. That's where they get the most work from. That's where the most submissions and, you know, angles and all the good stuff happens when you're on your back.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, you know, speaking to a fighter that's about to go in there and contend, you know, especially for the first time you transition over to bare knuckle fighting. You know, where can your fight fans follow you on social media, man?
Follow me on social media at Lil B-Dog106 on Instagram, and then you can follow me on Facebook at Brian Maxwell. I have a fighter page and I have my personal page, so either one is cool, so check me out.
There you go, Brian Maxwell, down here in Tampa, Florida, about to step in there in the light heavyweight division, bare knuckle fighting championship number 8 tomorrow night. Be sure to check him out. Salute from World Combat Sports.